Hi there everybody, and welcome to another video. On today's video I have this Mercedes C-Class. This is a w203 model, well, I'm just changing the oil in it, which I already made a video of. This is a 2004, by the way, so the w203 it goes up to 2005 or 2006, I think. Nevertheless, while inspecting underneath here, just wanted to show you guys something common in this car is the this multi-plug switch here for the gearbox. It tends to leak a little bit of oil, so when it leaks, it also leaks on into the multi-plug, and sometimes it can cause issues. And it's also known for that leaking oil to go all the way, travel all the way up the wiring into the ECU. I don't know how it does it, how it travels all the way up there, but it does, and then it causes issues with the gearbox. So if you are inspecting your car underneath and you find that this area here is wet, then it's most likely to be that switch. So that's what I'm going to be changing today, and it's not a difficult thing to change. You just need to be careful. This is a new one here. So these are the seals that I guess start leaking and letting the oil pass through. So there is a 7mm screw in there, if you can see that little 7mm. It's a really delicate screw, because one time I was changing one of these and I tightened this a little bit too much, and I was using a tiny ratchet. I tightened it too much and it snapped. And to get that little screw out of there, if you snap it, you need to drain all the oil and remove the pan here, and remove the, as far as I remember, you have to even remove the body of valves, solenoid body, and then you can get the little screw out. So it's not the end of days. It's doable. I had to do it, but obviously it requires you to drain the oil, change the oil, all of that. So when tightening, I'm just gonna tighten that by hand this time around. I have changed a few of them. It's just that one time I don't really know what happened, so I snapped it. Anyway, to get better access to that switch, it's best to remove this little cover plate here. So if you undo the Torx screw that will be holding this metal plate in there, I'll have a look at the size in a minute, that will get loose, and then you can literally pull it out. It's just pushed in at the top there into a little clamp. If we can see that, it's just clamped in up there, so you can pull it out. It's a little bit hard to pull out, but it does come out. The little Torx screw is a T30 that holds that plate in there. Now I've already open this switch. This part here, you basically just bring it down. It will be somewhere up here, so it will be up there. Just bring it down, you'll be able to take this out. You can see some oil there. Anyway, you can take this out and just put it to one side. And in there obviously is the switch. or well, the multiplug bit here is there. So now I already released the 7mm that's in there. I already opened it, and now it's a matter of taking that out. Sometimes it can be hard to take it out, but sometimes it can actually be harder to push the new one in. So let's tackle that. Also here, that's the part number for this here, and it's A20354000253. These are, well, I had this in stock last time I bought it. It was around £15 from Mercedes themselves. Don't know if the price has gone up or there is waiting times of millions of years, because clearly at the moment things are going a little bit potty and waiting times are taking a bit long for parts, I mean. So I'm gonna when we take this off, a little bit of gearbox oil will also come out, especially if the gearbox is hot. In this case it is hot because the car just was driven here. So I'm gonna try and measure whatever amount comes out so we can top it back in, and it's not usually a lot, it's a little bit that comes out, but just definitely want to try and catch the oil that comes out so we can have an idea of how much is coming out. So just preparing here. Okay, so I just have a little container with a funnel underneath here to catch whatever oil comes out. This might not be the best view in the world, but we're literally just going to pull this switch out, and I may just use a flathead screwdriver to help me a little bit get it out. Also just observe before you take it out, just have a look at how much this is in, because then you may get a little bit confused when trying to push it back in. You might not know if it's all the way in or not. So just note, the camera's not focusing. Okay, let's get this, try to get this out of the way a little bit. Right. So it goes all the way in up to, oops, my funnel just come out. This line here, so this line there basically lines up in there with the actual gearbox area. So more or less we know how much this will go in. Right, let's get this out. Okay, so a little bit more oil than I thought maybe coming out here, because the engine is really hot in this case scenario, and so is the gearbox oil, so it would expand, and that's why it would come out maybe a bit more than what I would want to. Also, when you remove these, make sure the O-rings, those two O-rings, come out with it, because sometimes one of them remains in, and then when you try to push the new one in, of course you struggle. Okay, I'm gonna let that drip for a little while until it stops, and then fit the new multiplug in. Okay, I've got my new sensor here. Well, this isn't the sensor, but this is the multiplug mount, where the multiplug goes into, basically. So I put a little bit of grease around the O-rings there, make it easier to push this in, and this can only go in one way. So if you recall the way this came out, something like this. That's how just wanna guide it in there. You will feel that it sort of clicks into position, and then we need to push that in there. Now I push that in a little bit, but it still has to go in quite a bit until that area there that we saw earlier, it's flat with the gearbox frame here area. So that's the only bit that can be a little bit of a hassle to do, but that's what we need to do. We need to push this in, and it can be a bit hard, so I'm gonna try to use my two hands for this and push that in there. Okay, so after a little while of pushing and pushing, just managed to get it in there. It's a little bit difficult to see, but this is the bit of this sensor, or well, it's not a sensor, but this holder here. That's the bit that is sitting sort of in line with this part of the gearbox. So as you push it along, as you push this in, it will go all the way in there, and that's more or less where we want it to be sitting in. I already have my little tool here to press that center screw, so I'm just tightening that in by hand as much as I can. Oh, my hand is a little bit slippery, but like I said, just get it in there by hand. I think there's definitely a torque setting for that. I just don't remember what it is, and I haven't got a small enough torque range to torque this up. So again, I'm not gonna use this ratchet from down here. I'll just use it from the head and do a few turns. But I think the torque setting is 10 Newton meters or something like that. But you can check that online, because like I said, it's easy to snap that tiny little screw in there, and if you snap it, it's a big job, which again is doable, but it's just a lot of job for not taking care of a little thing. So let's not snap this tiny little screw, let's not over tighten it. I'm literally just using the head here to turn the screw a little bit and now I feel it's tight, so I'm gonna leave it there because I definitely don't want to cause any issues. We can definitely clean the area here, put your multi-plug in, and obviously if you see any oil coming out of there, you may need to tighten that little screw in there a little bit more. But the best way it will be to get a torque wrench and to torque it really. Also, the amount of oil that came out was 800 mil. I wasn't expecting that at all. I think if you do it with a cold gearbox, you may get a lot less coming out. I remember 300 to 400 before, so it all depends, but we can top up 800 mil from the top, from the dipstick hole. So, and I'm gonna use ATF. This oil really didn't look as clean as I would want to. It probably needs a gearbox oil change at some point. So for now, I'm just changing the multiplug, and I'm gonna top it up with some new oil. But I think in the near future, I'm looking at changing the gearbox oil in this car. This is done already 100,000, well, it's done 94,000 miles, so it probably deserves an oil change, gearbox oil change. I mean, the oil changes are done every year. So apart from that, I got that in there now, secure. Okay, so I just cleaned this a little bit because there was some oil around this area, but you may notice there is a little bit of grease around this other O-ring as well. So you can leave that there or even put a little bit more, but that's just helps for the sitting of that in there. So now we just line up your wiring. It will sit in such a position that you can push it in to a certain point where you can't really rotate it, if that makes sense. So you can't do that once it's in, and then you know it's in the correct position. You can then close this and it will pull the wiring harness in, and it will lock into place. And that's really pretty much all that we need to do. So just clean the area here a little bit. If we clean this area, I'm just using some brake fluid cleaning, not brake fluid, but brake cleaning that we use for cleaning brake fluid. Smells like a bit like alcohol, or to be honest, it really reminds me of a hospital. I used to be in hospital with my kidney transplant, so I don't know what what's in here. Right. So clean the area. You clean it properly, or get rid of whatever oil was there. Then if you see any oil dripping, then you will know it's coming from there, which then means you didn't do it properly and have to take it out again and refit it, which then means again you have to some oil will come out, and then you have to refit some more oil and whatnot. And then we can push this little plate in there. Okay, it goes in there, and then we can put the little screw also, when you disconnect this multiplug, I think you may get, if you have an OBD, you will see that there might be a fault code that is generated because the car loses connection from the gearbox. But it's not something, if you didn't have an OBD and you can't delete the fault code, I don't think you get any issues as far as I remember. It will eventually clear itself because it will recognize there's not really an issue there. But if you have an OBD, you can obviously go ahead and clean it. Clean the, or get clear of the fault code. Right, since I was changing the oil, I'm just gonna refit the cover that was here, and then we're gonna lower the car and top up some gearbox oil. Okay, so I'm just topping up some oil because obviously I was changing the oil in this car. But for the gearbox, we have this dipstick here. This is for the engine. If you never opened this before, there isn't a dipstick in here, but there will be a little red tab sitting here, which needs to be, you need to break it really in order to be able to open this cap. Once you break that little red tab, if you push this down, normally it allows you to open this. Technically, you're supposed to replace this once you break that little tab. Which I'm just trying to push down. Just don't want it to fall, so I may just get my other hand. Okay, so you can push that little red thing all the way out, and then you'll be able to push this out. It's got a little O-ring in there. And then you may want to get a funnel. Okay, so I have my funnel in there. This is the gearbox oil I'm going to be using, automatic transmission MV-ATF plus, fully synthetic. I only need 800 mils, I already measured that. And just pour it in there. So you may notice that it's a bit red in color. And just take your time putting that in there. You don't want to get any overflowing, because then you lose the measurement. So whatever amount comes out is the exact amount that you put back in. That way you know you're not messing with oil quantities. I know there's other ways of measuring the level of oil in the car by means of temperature, reading the computer, and whatnot. But this is another method in which you can do this, and you don't really mess with the amounts at all if you just fit back in whatever it came out. So and this car is almost pushing 20 years now. Okay, once you get your oil in there, just refit this back in there and get the little clip, unless you fit a new one, obviously. Otherwise you have to get that piece in there. Still locks into place, to be honest. So that's pretty much it, really. Let me get the car started and we'll show you that There's nothing coming up on the dash. Let me just finish this off. Okay, now we can start the engine, and the only thing that perhaps you need to do is go through the gears, so you don't have so you get all that gearbox oil going through all the gears. Okay, so just pressing the brake there, and just you can go through each of these for a couple of minutes or so. If you were doing a full change of the oil, then you would really run it through each gear for a little bit longer. But we only removed, well, only about 800 mils came out. So it, whatever is on the actual gearbox converter, torque converter or whatnot, is not really coming out. So, and that will be pretty much all you need to do in this case. So in any case, I hope this video helps. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.